From the TLV1 studios in Tel Aviv, Israel, it's Louis Live! That's your host, me, Ari Louis. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is well. This is Tuesday night from Tel Aviv, Israel. It's Louis Live coming at you on TLV1.fm. We have a great show. Lots to talk about. We'll talk about Yuri Foreman's first round knockout, Dimitri Salita's loss, the Hanukkah Bowl coming up next week, and much more. But we got to jump right away to our first guest. This is one of the biggest stories we've seen in Israel basketball history. On the line from Eurobasket to talk to us is David Doobie Pick. Doobie, how you doing out there?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Perhaps I was dreaming. Perhaps I read wrong. But did Lior Eliyahu sign? I'm talking about captain of Maccabi Tel Aviv, Lior Eliyahu, one of the faces of the franchise, signed with Hapoel Jerusalem. Is that a true story?
Yeah. I'm confirming your report, I guess.
Right. So this is one of the biggest stories out there, and the money-wise, $1.1 million. The offer was the same for both sides, and yet Lior decided to go with Hapoel Yerushalayim. Why do you think he chose to do that?
Well, I want to correct you and say that the offer he accepted from Jerusalem was less than that of Maccabi and what they offered, including the bonus clause. Why did Lior stick it to his old team? because he was signed for 2 more years to play for Maccabi, and they utilized an out clause, paid him $100,000 to try and re-sign him for a lower contract, and he felt betrayed. He felt that they misused that out clause. Sources around Lior Eliyahu are convinced that specific clause was there in case Maccabi wanted to breach the contract and send him elsewhere, but they didn't. They used it to lower his cost, and this is the best way they found to get revenge, which is a great way. You either go to Hapoel Tel Aviv, the crosstown rival, or Hapoel Jerusalem. He's really sold on what they have over there. They're building a new arena. They have new and flashy ownership, and a lot of Lior's national team teammates are on that team. So I think for him right now, it's the best fit. I'm very disappointed he decided not to explore the NBA and possibly the D-League. I know there was some interest there, but he still carries that Israeli mentality and says that he's a former EuroLeague player, an Israeli champion. He has all this resume to show for. He doesn't have anything to prove in the NBA, which I think is completely wrong, and it means nothing. And the Israeli League and Hapoel Jerusalem aren't going anywhere. They would still be here for Lior Eliyahu next year and the following. But, that's the path that he chose, and we have to accept it.
Now, my understanding is the first time these two teams will meet after this occurred will be December 1st. That'll be in Jerusalem. What will you think that'll be like? And what will it be like when he goes back to Tel Aviv and plays against his former team? Tell us about that.
Well, we still haven't seen Lior Eliyahu play for Hapoel Jerusalem. He was on the bench in the lineup earlier this week. They went at home. They're playing tomorrow in Russia in the Euro Cup against Khimki Moscow. He's really a game time decision. And then there's another 2 games before that December 1st game against Maccabi Tel Aviv. I'm almost positive. I'm really certain that he will play. He'll already be in game shape. The game is in Jerusalem. It's very important to note, and I think that will give him specifically and Hapoel in general a major confidence boost coming into the game against Maccabi and his former team. As for your question, going to Nokia Arena, I can only imagine the amount of booing that he's going to hear throughout the game.
Wow. Is this one? I talked about it as one of the biggest stories in Israel basketball history. Where would you rank it? Is this top 5, higher, top 3? As far as big stories, where would you rank it?
Well, I can't really rank it, but I'll say that it is the number 1 transaction this summer in the Israeli Association.
Wow.
Okay, because over the history we've seen a lot of players to really swap between the two organizations. We've seen guys going from Jerusalem to Maccabi, vice versa. So there's no big story over there. There's no shocker. Normally, players who take that road from Maccabi to Jerusalem are not successful. and they do not win titles. But I think Lior Eliyahu, for any team, is a championship caliber signee, and I have some faith in this team. They're really they stunk it up a few times this season. They choked in other games. I hope he can bring that extra dimension. That coaching staff, Brent Greenberg, they really have to step it up if they want to give a real fight to Maccabi Haifa and Maccabi Tel Aviv.
All right, last question, Doobie, before we let you go. We really appreciate the time. We know you're very busy with the story and other things, of course. But you talked about Hapoel Yerushalayim with Coach Greenberg, and they're going to have have Yaniv Green, Zach Rosen, obviously now Lior Eliyahu. Are they now the favorite? Are they, and especially Maccabi Tel Aviv struggling early, have a couple of losses? Is Hapoel Yerushalayim the favorite to win it all in Israel basketball?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
The favorites are the reigning champions, Maccabi Haifa, who on Sunday shattered a franchise record winning streak and recorded their next consecutive win in all competitions in Europe and the league. They're undefeated in the league following that first buzzer beater, heartbreaking loss in Tel Aviv to Maccabi. And as of now, they are the team to beat.
All right. There you go. You heard it from Doobie himself. David Doobie Pig, and catch his work on Eurobasket. Thank you so much for being on Louis Live on TLV1. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the basketball.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, folks, we'll take a quick musical interlude. Before we do that, I want to remind everyone, next Thursday at 8:30 Israel time from Jerusalem from Kraft Family Stadium, yours truly will broadcast the Hanukkah Bowl. That will be the Jerusalem Kings versus the Judean Rebels on this station. So, again, Thursday, November 28th at 8:30 p.m. You can turn in to the annual Hanukkah Bowl. Don't miss it. It'll also be Thanksgiving, so that's a nice tie-in as well. We'll take a quick musical interlude. On the other side, Radio Mike from Kew Garden Hills talking about Yuri Foreman's first-round knockout and Dimitri Salita's loss. This is Louis Live on TLV1. Back here on Louis Live on TLV1. If you want to follow the station on Twitter, that's at TLV1.fm. If you want to email me personally, arilouisshow@hotmail.com, ARILOUISSHOW@hotmail.com. Stay tuned. Later on in the program, we'll have on Rabbi Jason A. Miller from Michigan to talk about the Brad Osmus signing as manager of the Detroit Tigers. Also, Christian Lube, who is one of the few non-Jews to participate in the Maccabiah last summer, and much, much more. Before we get to all of that, we're going to bring on our main man from Kew Garden Hills to talk about our two favorite Jewish Orthodox boxers. The boxers, Yuri Foreman, Dimitri Salita. The man on the line, Radio Mike. Radio Mike, how you doing out there?
Okay, good. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing good. You're doing good. We're both doing better than Dmitry Salita. And of the two boxers, we're going to talk about him first. My understanding, you were at the fight. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was at the fight Saturday night. I think it was like about 2 weeks ago. A week ago Saturday night. And there were great matches before it. And Dmitry didn't have it that night. It was sad. It was not a good fight.
Is that the thinking? It wasn't because the gentleman he fought was Gabriel Bracero. I mean, he's not in Dimitri's league. I think Dmitry looked at this as a tune-up fight or a hand-picked fight. This was much a surprise to anyone, to you, to everyone at ringside, correct?
No, I wouldn't say that. Bracero's a good fighter. He doesn't really have a knockout punch. He only has, I think he had 22 wins. Also, only 2-3 losses. But he's not a knockout puncher. He was out in prison for about 6 years, and now he's trying to make a comeback. So they're both, about age 32, 33, where you're as a fighter that's getting along in years. And I don't know, it from the opening bell, from the first round, Dmitry slipped a couple times, not necessarily even from punches. I'm not sure, maybe it was the foot gear that he was wearing wasn't proper. He seemed off balance. For the first 5-6 rounds, it was pretty one-sided. Bracero won every round, and then in the last 2 or 3 rounds, Dmitry did come on a little bit, but he was already cut and bruised, and it really wasn't much of a contest. I mean, there was no way that Dmitry even came close to winning that match.
Now, my understanding, he was knocked down in the 9th and then got up, and that was a lot of courage, a lot of bravery, and in the 10th, he had a pretty good flurry. So talk about Dimitri's heart, that in this fight where he's getting a beating, he didn't just quit. He didn't say no mas, as other boxers have said. No. He finished. So talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, he did take a beating throughout the fight. They might not have been the hardest punches because Bracero's doesn't have the knockout punch. But after a number of rounds, and it was really one-sided. I mean, Dmitry did cut off the ring. Made the ring small. Did have Bracero in the corner a bunch of times, but he just couldn't put it together. Dmitry did have a lot of heart in the fight. I believe he did knock out Bracero. There was a standing 8 count later in the match, but it was really. He didn't really put it together, he might have won the last round or 2, but it wasn't Dimitri's night. Now, the one observation that I can make that I haven't heard it on any blogs or anything like that is that possibly, this is Dimitri's second loss. His first loss was against Amir Khan.
Right, 4 years ago.
And also the draw, I believe, was made, I think, in Atlantic City. And the two losses and the draw, they all happened on a Saturday night. Maybe, he can't fight on a Saturday night, and that's the problem.
It could be he is Shomer Shabbat, and obviously he's not going to be training or anything before that.
Yeah, he might need the training, a whole day of training, and that might be the problem. He's out of his routine, and then he's out of his routine, and you need a whole day to prepare, and you only had 5 hours. Shabbat ended 5:30, and the fight was about 10:30 at night. So maybe you need more preparation than just 5 hours that day. Maybe he went to a Kiddush and had some Cholent Kiddush, and that didn't help him.
Well, I joked with Yuri about that because when Yuri won his championship, it was on Saturday night. I said, "Were you tempted to have a second bowl of Cholent Kiddush and ruin months of training?" And so I think he said he had a little bit.
It becomes the big fight that Yuri had in Yankee Stadium was also
Saturday night.
That was also on a Saturday night, and that's when he tore up his knee.
His ACL, right.
How he lasted that whole fight on that Saturday night to finish off that fight with such a bad leg is that's heroic.
Yes, and we'll talk about Yuri in just 1 minute, but I just want to wrap up Dimitri because Dimitri had 4 wins in a year, and it looked like he was coming back after the American loss, which was around Hanukkah this time 4 years ago. He went about a year without fighting this time, partly because of the whole situation with Hector Camacho. The fight was canceled and not told to Dimitri and all that stuff. Where do you think he's going from here? You think he's going to continue fighting or just stick with the promoting? What do you think will happen?
I think, well, he has that promoting that he can do, and I think, I think he still wants to have a couple more fights and, take it slow, pick your opponents, get your confidence back, get your, get in shape again. Maybe he'll do one last flurry before he'll hang it up. I mean, he is about 32, 33 years old, which is kind of getting old for a boxer.
It's getting old for a boxer, especially the lower weights. Some of the big-time heavyweights, like guys like Lennox Lewis, can fight a little longer because they have that tall, long jab, but not always the little guys so much. Let's talk about Yuri, because Yuri, the last couple of fights, this is how it's gone. He beat Daniel Santos about 4 years ago. I believe the anniversary was November 11th, so not too long ago anniversary-wise. Then the Miguel Cotto fight, as you mentioned, tore his ACL, lost in Yankee Stadium. He then fought, he had to rehab, fought Pavel Wolik and was knocked out in the 6th. So a lot of people thought he was done, but this year he gets a win over Brandon Bayou, and about a week and a half ago or so, knocked out Javier Gomez in the first round. So let's talk about Yuri and where he's done lately, what he has done. Tell us, Radio Mike.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you knock out a guy in the first round, that's always a very, very good sign, obviously. The only downside of beating Javier Gomez is, Javier Gomez is not like the top ranked fighter around.
Right.
I mean, his record was 14-12, and he did have 10 knockouts, but he's not a great competition. I mean, you do knock out a guy in the first round with a heavy left, so that counts for a lot. So we're going to see more fights for Yuri, but he's got to step it up with the competition a little bit. I think right now Yuri is ranked like 48th in his weight division, so
wow.
He's got to move it up there a little bit there. And also, he has now 9 knockouts to his credit. But that was this was the first knockout by Yuri Foreman since 2006.
Yeah, he has about 30 wins or so and only 9 knockouts, as you mentioned, not known as a knockout puncher. He's kind of a guy that likes to run, take all advantage of the ring, use good boxing skills, and get a decision. What's interesting with Yuri, I told someone in the green room here at the studio that Yuri is the first Israeli Jewish world boxing champion ever, and obviously the only one at this point. I'm not sure he's going to be champion again because an ACL tear in boxing, I think, is worse than other sports. You saw Tom Brady tear his ACL, took off a year, came back. You see Adrian Peterson, but I don't think it's the same in boxing, especially a guy that runs around the ring the way Yuri does. I don't think we're going to see him fight at a top level. What are your thoughts, Radio Mike?
Well, you never know. Nowadays with modern medicine, things can change. You do have a guy like Adrian Peterson. He had a tremendous injury to his knee, and he's come back. So you never know. I mean, the medicine is getting better and better, and operations and it's tough to say.
You're the optimist. I like it because I want to see him come back and do well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think so. I think he can come back and he trains hard and everything like that. And apparently he is. He has tremendous heart, so why not?
All right. Radio Mike, thank you for being on Louis Live on TLV1. We'll keep track of both our fighters, of course, our 2 favorite fighters out there, and we'll speak with you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
Okay.
All right, folks, another musical interlude. On the other side, the commissioner of the Israel Football League, that's the American Football League here in Israel, Betzalel Friedman. This is Louis Live on TLV1.
Dinosaur
Back here on Louis Live on TLV1. Another reminder that a week from this Thursday, we will have the Hanukkah Bowl here on the station, 8:30 p.m. Israel time. The Judean Rebels taking on the Jerusalem Kings. And here to explain more about this great game, this annual tradition, is the commissioner of the Israel Football League, Betzalel Friedman. Betzalel, welcome to Louis Live.
How you doing, Ari?
Doing great. It's great to have you on. And you have participated in this game as a player, as a coach, and now as commissioner of the entire league. Before we get into the generalities of this game, talk about what this game means to you personally.
Well, it's a great tradition. It's something I've been part of since its inception, and it's a lot of things in life are about traditions, especially sports. Big rivalries, traditions play a major part of sports, and I think that this case is no different.
Now, it's interesting in that in the past years you've had one team up or one team down. The Kings have kind of struggled for a couple of years, but this past season the Rebels were in the finals and the Kings were in the semifinals, and they're still back. I know the Kings lost their quarterback, Eli Skolnick, but the Kings and the Rebels are two good teams. They're going to have 2 good years. How much more does that make the Hanukkah Bowl more impactful, that you have 2 really good teams playing in it?
Well, it obviously makes a difference when it's not obvious from the get-go who's going to win. That obviously makes a big difference, and that's a big part of sports. Although, in football, any given Sunday, so.
Right. Or any given Thursday night or Saturday night or Friday in the IFL, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, it's interesting this year that this is the first time it will be a preseason game because of the lateness of the season and the holidays and all this kind of stuff. Was there thoughts on your end to make it a regular season game? What was your decision, or why was it to make it a preseason and have it on Thanksgiving?
Well, we decided to push off the start of the regular season this year to give the high school league a little more time without us, simply because a lot of people are very active in both leagues, and it's very hard and demanding. So we started the high school league early, and we're starting our leagues late. So it just happened to be that we weren't ready for the regular season come Hanukkah. So, we wanted to keep the tradition going, so we just made sure to have the Hanukkah Bowl happen no matter what, even if it means it's being a preseason game.
All right, now this question, Kamish, I'm bringing this up because this was brought to me by one of the 4 players who played in the Hanukkah Bowl. Have you ever thought about giving out some type of cup or trophy like they do in the college rivalry games, like when Ohio State plays Michigan or Arizona State plays Arizona? They usually have some type of cup at the end. Have you thought about doing that for the Hanukkah Bowl game?
It's come up in the years past that, the teams could have a menorah or Chanukiah or something, or a dreidel, it doesn't really matter, and just have that be the prize. It's a possibility, but right now I think it's something that maybe the teams should just do, because I don't know if the league can go get a trophy for certain teams, but it wouldn't
not for others,
be
right?
For other teams. So
right.
Until every team has a bowl game that they're part of, then I don't think that's really fair.
We're speaking with Commissioner Betzalel Friedman here on Louis Live and TLV1. Now, Commish, talk about the atmosphere of this game, because for those who haven't been to it at Kraft Family Stadium, there is a lighting of the menorah, and usually a child does it, correct? How does that all work? And tell us about the atmosphere for those who haven't seen it yet.
Well, actually, this year I called up Chabad, and they're going to bring one of their giant, 1 meter tall Chanukiot. So I think, as long as we're doing it, we may as well do it the right way.
There you go. Very nice.
That's what it's about. That's what it should be about.
All right, so there will be a lighting of the menorah. Will be the first night of Hanukkah. So if you want to see some lighting and you want to watch a football game, that's the way to do it together. Last couple minutes with you before we let you go. I want to talk about some of the players in this particular year's game, because in the past we've seen Johnny Joe Martitius and Alex Sueca, John Rubin, T.J. Williams, a lot of great players. This year, we're going to see Donnie Eastman, as far as we know, the reigning MVP, Ari Weisbord. Talk about some of the other players that people should look out for in this game.
Well, if you're talking about the Rebels this year, you have to talk about Zaire Harris. Zaire Harris is a phenomenal player to the point where our reigning MVP might not even be the best player on his own team.
Wow.
and that's saying something. So if you didn't catch Zaire, who is nicknamed Z, if you didn't catch him at the tournament, then you're going to see him this year, and watch out. Now, on the Kings side, the Kings were the surprising team of said preseason tournament. They went 3-1 in the tournament, and their only loss was to the Rebels. Now, it's a preseason tournament. Obviously, you can't take it that seriously, but they definitely had some players, a new quarterback who definitely showed promise, and I think and hope it'll be a good game.
All right. So, again, the game is Thursday, November 28th, live from Kraft Family Stadium, 8:30 p.m. Israel time. The game will be live on the station, so everyone listening to this interview, you can listen to the game on the station. And last question, Commissioner, before we let you go, your thoughts on Andrew Luck's tough performance about a week ago in Peyton Manning and Colts and all that good stuff.
Well, with the Colts, we were hoping that it wouldn't take so long to rebuild, and it hasn't. And the fact that the Colts were even a contender at this point in the season is nothing short of miraculous and lucky, if you will.
Right.
So I think there are a lot of things in the right place, and it's just a question of fitting everything together and making it all work. Obviously, the loss of Reggie Wayne was huge, but Reggie Wayne doesn't play defense, so you can't blame
well said.
Reggie Wayne for the Colts giving up 38 points.
Well said. All right, so a little Indianapolis flavor here on Louis Live on TL1. Thank you so much, Commish. We'll see you next week on Thursday. Looking forward to it, and thank you for being
forward, Ari.
Yes, thank you for being on the show. We'll speak with you soon. Be well.
My pleasure.
All right, that was Commissioner Betzalel Friedman here on Louis Live on TLV1. We'll take a musical interlude, and we'll have more on the other side. This is Louis Live on TLV1.
אביך על פני האדמה, אביך
Back here on Louis Live on TLV1. Once again, if you want to follow the station on Twitter, you can do so at TLV1.fm. If you want to email me personally, that's arilouisshow@hotmail.com, ARILOUISSHOW@hotmail.com. We've had a couple of great guests so far. Doobie Pick from Eurobasket, Radio Mike from Kew Garden Hills, Commissioner Betzalel Friedman, and we're going to continue with our great guest. Our next guest participated in the Maccabiah this past summer, and a very interesting story to tell, so we're going to listen to that. Please give a warm Louis Live welcome to Christian Luba. Christian, how you doing out there?
Hey, good in yourself, Louis.
Doing fantastic. Now, you have an interesting tale to your story in that you're not Jewish, so before we talk about why you participate in the Maccabiah, first, let's hear about why you're in Israel. You know, we do have non-Jews come, but predominantly it's a Jewish country. Usually non-Jews don't stay here for a long time. You've done that, so tell us about that.
Ari, it's every person has their own personal reasons why they go places or come to Israel. I heard a voice. I heard a calling from God, and I decided to act on the voice, and I came to Israel as a volunteer. At first, the plan was to stay here for 1 year. I didn't really know what was in store for me when I came here. I didn't know the language or anybody all on my own, and but I came, and I've been here for about 8 months now, and it's been amazing.
All right, so you've been here. You felt the need to come. You came. And then you participated in the Maccabiah. Now, you play rugby, and you're also a runner. The Maccabiah, you did running. Tell us how you got involved with the Maccabiah.
Well, I have a very big passion for athletics. And in South Africa, we have the privilege of being able to compete in sports from a very young age, 5 or 6 years old. So I've been running athletics and rugby all my life. And in Israel, I wanted to stay active. I went to the gym. Met some friends there who could speak English, of course, and I told them of my passion for athletics and how I wanted to run. So they found a track for me at Givat Ram University. We went there, trained just once, and a coach approached me, and he told me that he asked me a couple of questions, and then he told me that if he will coach me for free, will I run for Sololim Yerushalayim, which is the Jerusalem club, against the other cities. So I said, yeah, of course. Is in one of these competitions in the Jerusalem Grand Prix that the manager of our club, he invited some guy who's pretty high up in the sport of Israel. He watched my race. He was impressed with what he saw, and he invited me to come run in the Jewish Maccabiah.
All right, so then now you're part of the Jewish Maccabiah. Was it an issue you being non-Jewish? And I'll explain why I asked that question. I grew up in Arizona. I was pretty much the only Jewish kid in my class. I did receive some anti-Semitism, and it was uncomfortable for me. Hopefully, obviously, wasn't reversed. Was there discrimination towards you because you're not Jewish?
It was. No, it was really amazing. These people, they know how it feels to. Some of them really know how it feels to grow up the way that you did, and so they don't want to treat other people that way. And a lot of these athletes that I've also ran against this whole year, and I've made friends with them. So being there, they knew I wasn't Jewish. They knew I was a Christian, and I could just compete with them. And they were so nice to me. They always encouraged me. They were sort of impressed with the things that I came to do, and I was impressed with their way that they acted towards me. They were really, really nice guys. So it was really no problem.
And did you feel like these are friends for life? Because you hear that a lot of times in sports, that even if it's only a few months that a team trains together or athletes train together, they make friends for life. Did you feel that you made friends for life? I
feel like I made a couple of brothers, yeah, especially with where I train with my coach and with the other athletes. I have to leave Israel on the 11th of December, and all of them are so angry but sad and happy at the same time because they want to come visit in South Africa, but they want me to come back here and run again for them. And I've definitely made a lot of good friends.
All right, now, we are broadcast throughout the whole world, and a lot of people listening, they haven't been to Israel or they might be timid, scared. What would you say as a non-Jew who left South Africa, came to Israel, and had a great time, what would you say about your experience and about trying to convince them to come out here to Israel?
I think Israel is the only country where you can come and experience so many different cultures from all over the world and so many amazing people. This place is really an amazing place, which is also really a religion hotspot. for the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jewish alike. And so it's a place where you can experience a lot of countries at one place. Now, the Jewish people are not the same as the people that we're used to in our own culture. The Jewish people had to persevere a lot of persecution throughout the years. But once you make Jewish friends, they treat you like they adopt you. They treat you like your family. If I miss a meal at the place where I stay, they always keep food for me. They always provide for me. They always help me as much as they can. At first glance, you'd maybe not enjoy Israel or Jerusalem, but I'd really encourage people to come here, to stay for about a month, and just to meet the people and just to see the culture and everything that's happening here. It's really amazing. Just stay for a while.
You know, Christian, we got to get you on a PR campaign. I wonder if BB's listening. He's got to hire you. All right, last question before we let you go. You talk about that you're going back to South Africa on the 11th of December. Do you have any plans to come back, and what would you do if you do come back?
At the moment, when I'm going back to South Africa, I'm once again following The Voice. God told me to, or he really inspired me to go and study paramedic, becoming an emergency medical care practitioner or something like that, and reach people's lives in that way and just help the people. And if I were to come back to Israel, I would still definitely keep on running athletics, and I would help out, maybe even volunteer as a paramedic.
All right, there you go. So have a safe flight as another example, by the way, of sports bringing different cultures together. So thank you for coming to Israel, and thank you for being on the show. And we look forward to you coming back as soon as possible.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a lovely state country, and I'm very, very excited to come back.
All right. Be well, Christian. We'll speak with you soon. Take care.
I'll speak soon. Thank you. Bye.
All right, that was Christian Luba here on Louis Live on TLV1. Stay tuned for another musical interlude. And on the other side, Rabbi Jason A. Miller from Michigan, who will talk about the Brad Ausmus hiring as the manager of the Detroit Tigers. Don't miss this. This is Louis Live on TLV1.
Got color in your cheeks. Do you ever get that fear that you can't shift, the tide that sticks around like summits in your teeth? Are there some aces up your sleeve? Have you no idea that you're in deep? I dreamt about you nearly every night this week. How many secrets can you keep? 'Cause there's this tune I found that makes me think of you somehow, and I play it on repeat until I fall asleep, spilling drinks on my settee. Do I wanna know if this feeling flows both ways? Sad to see you go. Sorta hoping that you'd stay. That the nights were mainly made for saying things that you can't say tomorrow day. Crawling back to you, never thought I'd call and run. You like you, 'cause I always do. Maybe I'm too busy being lost to fall for somebody new. Now I thought it through, crawling back to you. So have you got the goods? Been wondering if your heart's still open, and if so, I wanna know what time it should. Simmer down and poker up. I'm sorry to interrupt, it's just I'm constantly on the cusp. I've tried and to kiss you. I don't know if you feel the same as I do. We could be together if you wanted to. Was sort of hoping that you'd stay. Didn't we both know that the nights were mainly made for saying things that you can't say tomorrow day? Crawling back to you. Ever thought of calling when you've had a few? 'Cause I always do. Maybe I'm too busy being lost to fall for somebody new. Now I thought it through, crawling back to you. If this feeling flows both ways, we're sort of hoping that you stay. We both know that the nights were mainly made for saying things that you can't say tomorrow day. Do I wanna know? Too busy being lost to fall. Ever thought of calling down? Do you want me crawling back to you?
Back here in Louis Live on TLV1. Thanks for staying with us. Tune in to us again next Thursday, November 28th. It's the Hanukkah Bowl. Judean Rebels versus the Jerusalem Kings, 8:30 p.m. Israel time. Going to be great stuff. Want to listen to me on that. We're now talk baseball. Baseball in the United States, Major League Baseball, with a rabbi who is very prominent in the Michigan area. And we've had discussions in the past via Facebook about the Brad Osmus sighting. And that guest, of course, is Rabbi Jason A. Miller. Rabbi Miller, welcome to Louis Live on TLV1.
Thanks so much. Great to be with you.
So where to begin? You're a businessman, a rabbi, and a sports fan. And Brad Osmus, of course, signed with the Tigers a couple weeks ago. We had him on last week. Appreciate Brad's time. Before we get to Brad's impact, you corrected me on something which I think is very important for people to know. Brad Osmus is not the only Jewish manager in the major leagues. Tell us a bit about that.
Brad Osmus is not the only Jewish manager in the American League either. Of course, Bob Melvin is Jewish. Also, like Brad Osmus, they both have a Jewish mother, making them both halachically Jewish. And another thing that they have in common is they were both catchers for the Detroit Tigers.
Wow.
Brad Osmus, of course, during 2 stints with the Tigers.
Now, that I should know because Bob Melvin used to manage my Diamondbacks. 2007, they went to the NLCS Manager of the Year, so I should have known that. So I do correct myself, everyone listening, that Brad Osmus is not the only Jewish manager, as you said, not only Major League, American League as well. Now, let's talk about his impact on the Detroit Jewish community, because a lot of kids out there, Jewish kids, might think I can't make it in athletics, or it's not for me, it's not a Jewish thing. Here's a guy in Brad Osmus who had a long career in the majors, an all-star appearance. Now he's a manager. How does that make an impact on the kids in Detroit and Michigan Michigan in general?
You know, what's interesting is a lot of these, professional athletes who are Jewish, for many of them, they didn't grow up with their Judaism, worn on their sleeve. It didn't really factor predominantly in their upbringing or in their background. And once they make it into the professional level, especially with Major League Baseball players I've seen, all of a sudden they recognize that whether they like it or not, they're going to become Jewish role models.
Right.
And I think for the most part, these athletes handle it pretty well, sort of shifting. And some of them are very honest. Brad Osmus did a great interview for a book that's coming out, in which he said, Judaism was really not part of his life growing up. His mother's Jewish, his father's Protestant. They did have a Christmas tree in the home. The only time they ever observed any Jewish holidays was really Hanukkah with his mother's family. So he's very upfront about that. He's married to a Catholic woman. They have 2 children, and he is not raising them Jewish. But I also think that he recognizes that as a Jewish man with a very nice and thriving Jewish community here in Detroit, he's going to be called upon to talk about his Judaism, to represent the Tigers and the Tigers Foundation for Jewish causes. And quite frankly, I think he's going to do that in a very positive, meaningful way.
And Brad was on last week, and I said, how does it feel that you're a Jewish manager? What does that mean? And he said, well, if other people like that, if they're inspired by that, great. So he did acknowledge that part, and he did manage the Israel team last year in the WBC qualifier. So are you of the opinion that if he's called him on to speak at synagogues, Jewish community centers, that he's going to take that role and embrace it, or will he be like some celebrities and say, I'm too busy? What do you think he'll do?
Well, I think if he says he's too busy, it's genuine. Managing a Major League Baseball club, really doesn't afford you the luxury of doing the synagogue circuit or, going to a lot of JCCs. What I will tell you is that I happen to have grown up with the founder and the director of the Tigers Foundation, and they're really the ones who organize these speaking events. I happened to be at an event with Jim Leland and the majority of his coaching staff last January. About 11 months ago, 10 months ago, at the Holocaust Memorial Center.
Wow.
Which is actually the nation's first freestanding Holocaust memorial, and that's right here in Metro Detroit. And cynically, some people might say that event happened as a result of Delman Young's anti-Semitic outburst in New York City. And that's certainly possible. But what I saw was a very nice presentation made by Dave Dombrowski, who, of course, is the GM and CEO of the Tigers, and Leland and some of his coaches. And so I think we'll see some things like that where Brad Ausmus, I can't tell you he's going to be going to different synagogues around town, but I could certainly see him being honored by the Jewish Community Center. I'm on the board of the Michigan Jewish Sports Foundation, so I can certainly see him making some appearances at some of our events. We are in charge of the local Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, and certainly Brad Ausmus will be in consideration, for induction into that very auspicious group. Certainly, if he manages to stick around here in Detroit for some time and find some success.
We're speaking with Rabbi Jason Miller here on Louis Live on TLV1. A few more minutes with you, Rabbi. Now, the Tigers had a great team. Actually, past few years really have had some solid teams. Went to the World Series, went to the ALCS this last year. If the Tigers win the World Series, does it mean anything different? Will people say a Jewish manager won, or will that kind of go under the radar because people know Brad Ausmus more as a baseball player than a Jew? So talk about the possibility that it really could happen to the Tigers winning the World Series, and then what that means for the Jewish community in Michigan.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I was having this conversation with a fellow Tigers fan at a local synagogue right after the announcement that Brad Ausmus was being hired, and I thought that this guy summed it up very well. He made reference to the African-American comedian Wanda Sykes, who, after Barack Obama was elected president, she, in her stand-up routine, said, this is just wonderful for the African-American community, and we're so proud to have the first black president. And then she said, but of course, if he screws up, we're going to remind everyone that his mother's white. So this guy said to me, it's great that the Tigers have hired the first, the team's first Jewish manager, and this is just such a moment of pride for the Jewish community. However, if he screws up, we're going to remind everyone that his father's Protestant.
Right. There you go. Wow. That's a great way to sum it up.
It's one of those things. People often, remark that it really doesn't make sense that the Jewish community makes a big deal about Jewish athletes, Jewish managers, things like that. No one ever talked about Jim Leland's, Christian religion or heritage. But it's unusual. We are a very small percentage of the United States population. The Jewish people are.
Right.
And when you factor in that most professional athletes are from the Dominican Republic or from Latin America, it's unusual to see a Jewish baseball player at the major league level. So we do make a big deal out of it, so much so that we're even willing to go against our our own definition of who's a Jew in order to do so. So, there like myself, there are many conservative rabbis who, from a halachic, from a Jewish legal perspective, wouldn't consider someone like Ryan Braun to be Jewish because, of course, his father's Jewish, but his mother's not.
Right.
So he's only Jewish on a patrilineal level. And yet he considers himself Jewish. He goes by the Hebrew Hammer. And as I always say to people, I wouldn't give him an aliyah in my shul, but for the sake of Major League Baseball, I'm happy to say that Braun is a baseball player, and we got to take the good with the bad. So even when he's dishonest and makes some colossal mistakes with PEDs, we can't all of a sudden say he's not a Jewish baseball player.
All right, we have to run real quick, Rabbi. If you could just say your website, just so people can look, because then we have to go. Please say it real quick so people check it out.
No problem. You can check out my blog at blog.rabbijason.com. Follow me on Twitter at Rabbi Jason, and of course my website www.rabbijason.com. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, folks, on the other side, Yosef Saar. This is Louis Live on TLV1. Back here on Louis Live on TLV1, and thanks again to Rabbi Jason A. Miller for coming on the program. We're going to slightly switch gears. We'll still talk about the sport of baseball, but more the sport of softball with our next guest, Yosef Saar. Yosef, how you doing out there?
Good evening. Everything's great.
All right, let's talk about softball, because softball is not one of the more popular sports, so we like to believe. We talk about in Israel, we talk about soccer, basketball, and so on. Where in Israel is softball played? If people want to go out there and play, where can they do that?
Adult softball is played in Petah Tikva at Yarkon Sports, which is at the Baptist Village, and at Kibbutz Gezer. In the north, it's played at Moshav Maor. But they have other teams from all over the country playing at those places.
Okay, and can you give us some background on the organized leagues in Israel? Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, the organization in Israel that organizes softball is called the Israel Softball Association. It was founded in 1979, and they've been playing ever since. They've had a men's league all that time. They have a men's league with 9 teams. The teams are Pentagon, Dimona, the Tigers, Gezer, Cervaceros, Twisters, Dogs, Agency 4, and Remax. And they represent mostly the center of the country. In addition to that, there's a women's league, and there's junior men's and junior women's activity.
All right. Now, is there an international competition out there that Israel participates in with their national teams?
Yes, there are several. The men's national team participates every 2 years in the European Championship. The last one, I believe, was in Belgium. The junior men's team participates in the European Championship. They played this summer in Denmark. There's a women's national team and a junior women's national team. All 4 national teams participate in European Championships. When they have good achievements, they also participate in the World Championship.
All right, and when is softball usually played in Israel? Because some sports are seasonal, some just summer, fall, spring. When can we see Israel softball throughout Israel?
Adult softball is played in the spring. The season is from March till July. Playoffs the end of June and July. That's for men and women. The junior activity is usually parallel to the school year, which is about September, October, all the way through May.
All right, and last question we'll leave you is this, and this is a very important one, probably the most important one out there of questions to ask you. How can listeners get more information on playing, umpiring, watching the games, helping them with the games? How can they get more information and get involved?
We're always happy to have more players, more umpires, scorekeepers also, lots of volunteers. The best place to reach me would go into Facebook on Softball Eilat. You can put in softball Eilat either in English or in Hebrew, and they can get through to me.
Okay, I mean, and you are looking for more people. That's something that people can get involved with and do a lot of different things. If people are thinking, hey, I can't play, it's not for me, that's not true, because they could do other things to help, correct?
That's correct. They can be scorekeepers. They can be umpires. They can help in the organization. They can help in photography. They can help in the media. We're always happy to have more people.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Yosef, for coming on the program. Happy Hanukkah to you and your family. Enjoy the softball, and I hope Israel just keeps climbing its popularity of softball, because I think it's a great sport, and I'm very happy you're able to come on and tell everyone how they can get involved.
Thanks for having me.
All right. All right, folks, that is the end of our show. A couple of announcements I want to make. First, I want to thank Lior Peleg here for producing this show. He just did a little bob, but he can't see it because it's radio, but we appreciate any case. And Tomer Gersherman for making the music. All that great music that you heard throughout the program, that's thanks to Tomer, so we appreciate that as well. And also, again, I've said this before, I'll say it again, the Hanukkah Bowl, a week from Thursday, November 28th, 8:30 p.m. Israel time. The Judean Rebels versus the Jerusalem Canes. They'll be live on this station by yours truly. It's going to be a fantastic event, very, very highly rated. People will be listening throughout the world, so be a part of that and enjoy. You want to follow us on Twitter? It's at TLV1.fm. Want to thank everyone for coming on the program. First, David Doobie Pick, who said Lior Eliyahu was sticking it to his team by signing with Hapoel Yerushalayim, but nonetheless says Maccabi Haifa is the favorites to win the Israel Basketball League. Radio Mike talking about Yuri Foreman's first-round knockout and Dimitri Salita's loss. Hopefully Dimitri continues with his career. Betzalel Friedman, the commissioner of the IFL, talking about that Hanukkah Bowl I mentioned, and he was a former player, coach, and now commissioner involving this game. Christian Lube, who came on the program as the only non-Jew this week, actually. He participated in the Maccabiah, said Israel is a great place to go, had a great experience, and made lifelong friends in the Maccabiah. Rabbi Jason A. Miller, who says we'll take them when we want them. Talk about Brad Osmus as a Jewish manager. If the Tigers do well, we'll say he's one of ours. If they don't do well, we'll say that his father's Christian. And Yosef Sar, if you want to get involved with Israel softball, you can look it up on Facebook, Israel Softball a lot. And that is the way it goes for this evening. Stay tuned for a lot of great programming and a lot of great stuff. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.